Hello, I'm Pranay Sharma, and today I'm going to speak to you on some recent developments that have taken place in our neighborhood, mainly those pertaining to India-Pakistan relations. As you may recall, relations between the two neighbors have mostly been testy. Since the partition of the subcontinent and when India and Pakistan emerged as independent nations in 1947, the relations have been fraught with hostilities, violence, and mistrust. And this has gone on even now. But the main issue on which this has happened and the relation has panned out is over the state of Jammu and Kashmir in India. Jammu and Kashmir became a part of India when the then Maharaja Hari Singh in October 1947 signed the instrument of accession to become part of the Indian Union. But this accession has always been challenged by Pakistan, and which continues to control a part of Jammu and Kashmir, about 1/3 of the state. India, however, says that possession is illegal and wants it back. Now this is where we stand. But what has happened over the years, Pakistan has not stopped its activities. Initially it started encouraging a lot of secessionist forces or those who wanted to break out of India and have an independent Jammu and Kashmir. But later, from 1989, it stepped up its activities and mainly started encouraging a number of terror groups which were based in Pakistan and also later in Jammu and Kashmir. Initially, these attacks were limited to Jammu and Kashmir or neighboring states, but later they started spreading to other parts of India. And many of you may recall the recent one in 2008, the Mumbai attack, which was noted not only by Indians but also a large number of people in the world. Now, where do we go? The strains have never gone away. It was always on the margins. From time to time they come back. Recently, we've had an attack in Uri at a military camp, and then India once again has been accusing Pakistan of sending in terror groups to carry out this attack, which Pakistan predictably has denied. Now it has been demanding that there be an international committee to probe whether or not Pakistan was involved in it. But India does not want to internationalize this issue, and so it has been talking about if Pakistan wants, bilaterally, India is willing to give it evidence which will establish that those people who came and carried out the attack were from Pakistan. But what has happened, the situation now that we see, is that the Indian leadership, which was 2.5 years back when they first came to power, pretty gung-ho about establishing good relation with Pakistan, is now becoming exceedingly frustrated. And as a result, we don't see any talks between the two sides. And now India is trying to look at various other methods through which it can pressurize Pakistan, isolate it internationally and at various other regional forums, so that not only India but also other countries try and tell Pakistan that the policies that it has been pursuing does not really work, because it's fraught with danger not only for Pakistan but also for the entire region and beyond. And Indian leadership has been thinking of a number of such steps by which it can put pressure on Pakistan. To start with, the Indian Prime Minister, who was supposed to go for the SAARC summit, which was due in November in Islamabad, he has now decided not to go there, because he thinks no meaningful dialogue with Pakistan can be continued under this kind of atmosphere where terrorism continues from Pakistan against India. But significantly this time, it's not only India but a number of its neighbors, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Bhutan, all have rallied behind. And this is an unprecedented move. In the past, they have never done so. They've kept a safe distance from India-Pakistan quarrels. But this time they've all come together and started demanding that Pakistan mend its ways. The other thing that India has been talking about, a non-military leverage perhaps to put pressure on Pakistan is how to use the Indus Water Treaty, an agreement which they had signed in 1960 and which, despite the 4 wars that the two sides have fought, have remained in place. But now the Indian leadership is thinking of tweaking it a little, not abrogating it, not breaking away from it, but to use the provisions within to put pressure on Pakistan. Sections within the country and elsewhere have raised questions about it. They are concerned how this may pan out. But this is what the Indian leadership is thinking about. The other point that they have also tried to explore to put pressure on Pakistan is to withdraw the most favored nation that it had accorded to Pakistan to facilitate trade between the two sides. And this is also being tweaked a little. Maybe India is going to withdraw it totally, because Pakistan so far has not given the same kind of a status to India. It has found various excuses not to do so. And moreover, trade between the two sides has not really taken off, though there is a lot of potential for that. But in the last 70 years, despite promises, it has not really worked. So this is where we stand. What the fresh strains mean to this relationship and how it is likely to pan out not only in India-Pakistan relation, but also may affect the entire region, is for us to wait and see.
Why can't India go to war with Pakistan? Teach them a lesson.
See, this is a rising sentiment. The rising sentiment in India after the Uri attack has been that why shouldn't India react or respond against the Pakistani policies or what Pakistan has been doing militarily. But I think rightly the Indian leadership has so far made it very clear that war is not an option. The reasons being, when you start a war, meaning any country can start a war, but ending it is not in your hand. And once you are in a war, there are other negative consequences, because you don't only punish your adversary, in the bargain you also get punished. So it's not only a loss of a lot of lives, which invariably a war will entail, but it also calls for a lot of resources, money, and moreover for India particularly, it will take you away from the development plank on which you are. It will set you back.
How would breaking up the Indus Waters Pact with Pakistan affect India?
See, I think, it is really fraught with a lot of danger, because number one, this treaty, as I mentioned, has remained in place despite the 4 wars the two countries have fought, and several other tensions or hostilities that both India and Pakistan have had over the last several decades. So internationally, it has been hailed by a large number of countries. When the treaty, the IWT, was put in place, the World Bank had mediated. So India, as a responsible player, and this is a role which it wants to expand even further, it's looking for a permanent seat in the UN Security Council. So for a country like that to abrogate an international treaty will have these implications. People will start asking questions, and I don't think it's an image that India would like to have. Rather, what it's trying to do, without breaking the treaty, whether it can be tweaked, because, say for instance, there is a provision where India can use 20% of the Indus water, which it has not been doing. It has been generous in giving that to Pakistan. But if it starts increasing its own intake, using it within either Jammu and Kashmir or try and take it elsewhere, this will severely affect Pakistan, especially Punjab. It's going to be a lot of hardship and problem for the people in Pakistan. So what is it that we have in mind? Are we trying to punish the government or those who formulate policies, the terror groups, or the general people of Pakistan? Because Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently said that people of Pakistan should rise up in revolt to fight against poverty, the backwardness, illiteracy, things like that. So ultimately, through your policy, if it affects larger number of people in Pakistan, how is that goodwill that you're trying to talk about in Pakistan to get the support of the people there will be behind you? So there is a problem. Moreover, a precedent like this can be used by other countries. India is not always the upper riparian country. So where it is the lower riparian country, those which has an upper hand can use the same kind of a example, a precedent that India is trying to set, and it may go against our interest. So this is best avoided.
Will all this affect India's relationship with China?
See, Sino-Pak relations, that is the way Beijing has developed its relations with both Islamabad and Rawalpindi, its military headquarters, has been very strong. It is, they say that it's an all-weather friend. They have withstood various kind of challenges in the past. So I don't think, they are going to dump Pakistan in any time soon. But at the same time, India is a challenge for China. But there are large areas where they cooperate with each other. The two countries have a long border which has not been settled. But at the same time, they've kept it aside. They have built up mechanisms to resolve it. At the same time, they are also looking at areas where they can cooperate. Say, for instance, the trade area. The trade between the two sides have been growing, and there are potentials of further growth in that sector. The two sides cooperate with each other at various international forums. They want greater says at the international institutions like IMF, World Bank. So I think, areas of cooperation between India and Pakistan has its own dynamics. The cooperation between India and China has its own dynamics. So I don't think China will try and break its relation with either of the two countries unless it faces a very grave challenge from India in the near future.
So in case there's a war, who is going to be India's biggest ally?
Number one, I don't think countries will allow, or the major players, say it be the US or China or most of the other international, the key players in the international stage, would allow a situation to get out of hand where you will have another war between the two countries. Primarily, this is because not only, India may have a superiority over Pakistan in the conventional sense, if that kind of a war is there, but both countries are also nuclear weapons power, and if Pakistan realizes the situation is fast emerging where it is losing out, to use a nuclear option is always there, and that is a worry not only Indian policymakers but a number of others have about it. So a war is something which not only the Indian leadership but all its friends will try and give it sage advice not to go for a situation like that where you can have a war.
What are the implications of the Russia and Pakistan's joint military exercise for India?
See, this is a very significant one because at the moment it is nothing but a joint exercise between the two sides. But the fact that this has happened, and Russia has been one of the closest, strongest ally of India, not only now, even when it was the great Soviet Union, one of the superpowers in the world, it has sided and helped India at not only the UN Security Council, but on a number of other fields as well, energy cooperation, infrastructure, and gave it that kind of a moral support. Or with Russia being at its side, many other countries did not really want to meddle or push India around because they always knew that Russia is always there behind India. So that kind of a relationship today has undergone change. It is still a very close friend of India, but one of the key segments or sectors which has kept this relationship going was the defense cooperation. But in the last 10 or 15 years, India has been looking beyond Russia to other countries, mainly America or Israel, France and others. And this has reduced the kind of, and Russia is no longer the main source for India's defense supply. So So Russia, in a way, is also trying to look at other markets. Pakistan perhaps will be one of its market in the future, but I don't think it's going to do anything that will jeopardize India's interest. But at the same time, India will have to be very careful and look at this growing cooperation, which is at a very tentative stage at the moment. But in the coming days, we will have to look at it carefully how it pans out.